This week in movies, we're talking about the next movie from Ang Lee, Taking Woodstock. So Ang Lee is an Academy Award-winning director. Most of his films have been nominated or won Academy Awards, from Sense and Sensibility to one of my favorites, The Ice Storm.
Yeah. Talk about a director with a varied career.
Yeah. Well, really specifying in period. Almost every single one of his movies is a period film.
But then he makes stuff like
and then Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Brokeback Mountain. Taking Woodstock stars one of my favorite stand-up comedians, I think yours as well, Demetri Martin, as a...
He's a what? The lead kid is a stand-up comic?
Yeah.
And he used to be the youth correspondent on The Daily Show also.
Right, that's where I remember him from.
So Demetri Martin plays a kid who's sort of stuck in the hometown where he grew up and his older parents live in upstate New York, in the middle of nowhere, and he is trying to make ends meet for his folks and for the town by
based on a real person, right?
I don't know. I don't know about any sort of
person.
I thought it was like a fictitious.
Really?
Because Woodstock did not go down this way.
It didn't? It went to Woodstock.
Yeah, it was in Woodstock.
So this is completely...
I thought this was completely fictive.
I thought it was based on...
I thought it was like Inglourious Bastards was...
Yeah.
Well, maybe no more than I.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case.
You know, if you remember Woodstock, you weren't there. Am I right?
Anyway.
So like us.
So to help out the town and to help out his parents, he makes Woodstock happen in his rural town. Right. And hilarity ensues. Or does it? Jeffrey Canada, what did you think of Taking Woodstock?
I was disappointed with it. I found it bland. And it's interesting.
End of review.
I know. It's like,
pretty much.
Yeah.
I found the whole Woodstock phenomenon a very interesting backdrop upon which to play your story, which is exactly what he's doing. This is not a story about Woodstock per se. It's more a story about these characters. And the backdrop of the story is Woodstock. And the way he shoots and recreates the crowds and the people and the time period are all really, really cool. And I would have loved I would have loved to have learned more about that time and those people and how Woodstock was, and all these things. And I guess I assumed there was more truth in it than it sounds like you guys are saying there was. Which I would have liked to have seen. I mean, I would love to see a great documentary about Woodstock, which I haven't seen. I'm sure there are those.
Yeah, Martin Scorsese.
Right. Yeah, I never saw that.
Which is, I was talking to my brother about it because that's where the split screen stuff came from that documentary.
Yeah, well, some of it he is originally shot as Ang Lee, like.
Oh no! I meant the choice.
Style.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway,
that famous Woodstock.
So yeah, ultimately I was kind of not interested in.
Gotcha.
I think the big thing for me was it just was boring. I just was sort of bored. It was like, okay, I'm bored. Also, I felt like every time there was there was no conflict. There was nothing was a conflict. There was no of a conflict.
You're saying, yeah.
Because what ends up happening is like in one scene, there's like
your word choice was a conflict.
Yeah, and one scene it's like the people are here to check like your permits are all off, woo! And it's like, oh, okay, that must be the conflict of the movie is, oh God, how do you get over this? And then literally continuing the scene walks in and he goes, oh yeah, don't worry about that. And then you never hear about it again. Mobsters show up, they chase him out. It's like, ooh, that's going to be the big conflict of the guy. You never hear about him again. It's like nothing. There's no fear that anything bad is going to happen in this whole entire movie. And I was really sort of surprised at how much Ang Lee lampooned theater actors. Good Lord, he was like, I know theater actors can exist like that, but
those weren't theater actors. They were like,
it was a theater troupe, and they just made it seem like
filthy hippies.
No, I know, but for me, I was sort of shocked because every time they were on scene, I was like, wow, he must really not like theater people. You know what I mean? Because it just felt so like, ugh.
As someone who's done stuff like that.
Well,
I
thought, to be fair, I thought you were going to be taken. I was like, poor Jeff. He must be really offended.
Now he is.
Now he must be. So just boring. Yeah, just boring. It didn't seem. It just wasn't fun.
Except for the theater comment, I couldn't agree. Identical reviews from me.
Yeah.
One thing that really took me aback, though, was that what identifies Ang Lee to me is, and his often screenwriter collaborator James Schamus, is they are usually very restrained and subtle, and this was just very broad and
on the nose
and cliche.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And you know, there were still things that were
like
very
the Vietnam character
very
was, like,
those
so
yeah. I mean, there were things.
character.
There were very those guys where they say things that say something that means definitely something on the surface, but really is about greater things. Like he's on the phone, this guy who has to stay in this town with his parents. He's on the phone with a friend of his, and he says, "Hey, are you still there?" And he says, "Yeah, I'm here." Which, you know, that really does mean much more than that. Which is something they always do, but that is handled in a very broad way throughout the thing. So I will say, great visual effects. Very few, but great. And I thought the acting was great.
Imelda Staunton
She was awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
and he
and
was great too, but it just
I don't know which one
unfortunately,
Imelda Staunton was.
the mom.
Oh yeah. Wow, yeah. Oh, was she the chick who
Harry
played?
Potter?
Oh, wow, blew my mind because I thought I was like, maybe she's right.
Transformative performance.
Totally, 100%. But the other thing I was going to say was Liev Schreiber looked surprisingly like he was playing Samantha Morton in that movie.
Sad.
Oh, that's mean.
Wow, you're a man of mean words.
He looked exactly like Samantha Morton, and I like Samantha Morton, so let's not get it. Has nothing. It has more to say about how pretty Liev Schreiber is than it has anything to do with Samantha Morton.